Well, it's been a little while since Wed's latest video, and these crazy times sure call for some update because dairy markets have been going all over the place. Commodity markets, not just dairy, have been struck by uncertainty with such force that it seems like there's not many things that are going to be able to lift them back up. There's panic buying and hoarding, and that led to a lot of unusual sales spikes for certain products, things of household items like disinfectant and paper products. But also some shelf-stable products. The first few weeks saw a rise in ESL or UHT milk sales, but soon most of the dairy case was really coveted. This brought stores to put limits on certain items, including fluid milk, and I know that's been a really frustrating sight for many producers. In turn, well, this put the brakes on the skyrocketing demand as consumers were forced to pick less gallons of milk than when they would have normally purchased. So Western United worked with the Dairy Institute to have retailers lift those limits, and while many started on their own to remove them progressively, we're hopeful that now most have lifted those restrictions. As of 2 weeks ago, retail purchases of milk had increased 53%, butter sales were up 127%, and cheese more than 84% compared to the same period the year earlier. On its own, this seems like really great news, but combined with the backstory of the restaurant industry severely struggling, this surge in retail demand was really needed. The decline in restaurant sales will cause really significant losses in dairy purchasing, and Americans spend about half their food budget on eating out, so it's not that surprising. Half is a lot. On a calorie basis, though, it's only about 20%. So some of the displaced sales from the restaurant industry isn't necessarily half of our food supply. That's part of the good news. Savings from not eating out can also be spent in the grocery store now, and admittedly also into stockpiling, as we've seen in recent weeks. Still, the significant shift from the restaurant industry to retail demand has caused major logistical issues. Restaurants closing or having reduced volume through takeout has created a shift from wholesale to retail, and that's created logistical and packaging nightmares for dairy plants. Trucking companies that haul dairy products are having issues finding drivers. And the same is true outside the U.S., where the restaurant industry is struggling globally. So exports aren't looking like a lifeline right now. So retail demand has been great, restaurant demand not so much, and all this uncertainty brought us to a massive market panic at the CME. If you've looked at the futures, and if you want to look now, better be sitting down. It is not pretty. It's a really steep curve down. We've seen the class 4 prices in the $11, the class 3 falling, closer to 13. Futures typically don't like uncertainty, though. So this is most uncertainty this country's economy has faced in a long time. So not too surprising they're reacting this way. I think a few things will determine whether we get to what the futures are showing today, and one of those is whether the economy remains stuck in a standstill. Currently, the president said that this will last until April 30th. Shelter-in-place orders will likely stay in place longer in some areas. But the question is, how much longer? The current stimulus package was huge, really huge, but and that means that many people will get direct payments, and much assistance for small businesses is also available. SNAP payments were increased, so hopefully this keeps the economy's head a bit above the water and allows many people to keep shopping for dairy at the grocery store. Because with all this, retail demand should keep pace with where it was and likely higher to make up for all the meals currently not consumed outside the home. American consumers are home shopping for staples, and that's not a disadvantage for dairy. One thing is certain, though, there will be some short-term pain as dairy farmers are asked to cut back on production in the next few weeks. Having full warehouses with a spring flush is really rough timing. CME spot prices are way down, but USDA prices are lagging, so March pricing was not too affected. The drop on California milk checks should start showing up in USDA prices for April. It seems like the products no longer needed by wholesale markets should be easy to transfer to higher retail demand. I mean, if people want it, why not just shift it to grocery store? But product preferences, formats, packaging, everything's different. And suppliers can't just turn their processing lines around so easily. Installing new equipment to switch a plant from making one type of cheese to another could be the millions of dollars. The packaging robots and the labeling machines, they're like skilled workers, and their areas of specialty don't necessarily transfer easily. So in the face of all this logistical issues and the difficulty in switching milk from lower demand product to what is in high demand, there's been bottleneck in many parts of the country, and milk has been dumped, sadly. There may be retail demand, but wholesale demand decline is backing up products in warehouses, and buyers are pausing orders from many processors. So that reality is coming to California this week as some processors have restricted their shippers' production or asked them to dump milk already. A big part of working through this will be through purchases and donations to food bank. The USDA's CCC got an additional $14 billion in the CARES Act, and those funds, some of those funds can be used for those purposes. This would help find a good use for those products that normally would go to restaurants. Dairy organizations can play a role in helping to ensure that partners like food banks can accept and distribute donated fresh products. And what has been working with the California Association of Food Banks this week, along with Ag Council, Dairy Institute, and CDFA and small processors to get some products to be donated. We're working alongside this organization to get milk and transportation costs covered using the CARES Act fund and through Governor Newsom's additional small business support funding just announced yesterday. So hopefully we can move some of those products and not lose precious dairy products that dairy farmers are working hard every day to produce. So this was the update on the current COVID-19 situation. For any question, feel free to email me, Annie at WU Dairy. Thanks for listening.